Welcome back. This is part 2 of making our puzzle cube. In part 1 we designed this simple part, but if you designed a challenging puzzle cube, you're going to have several parts that are not that simple. So what we're going to do in this video is work on designing one of these other complex parts. So I'm going to choose this red part right here. It is a 3 wide piece on the bottom crossed with a 3 wide piece going over the top of it, kind of right in the middle. So I'm going to click and start a new part, just like I did last time, and we will start a 2D sketch. I'll start with the bottom 3-piece part. So I'm going to choose, this time, assuming that I'm starting on the bottom and working my way up, I'm going to start on the XZ plane, so I view more from my top view. And if you look here, I'm at my top view, and I'm kind of turned sideways, so I'm going to rotate this way and work my way from the bottom up instead of from the front back like I did in the last video. So I'm going to choose the rectangle tool once again. I will click, and I'm going to go ahead and enter right away. So I'm going to make this 0.75 times 3 and hit tab and do 0.75 times 3 and I think I typed 75, 0.75 times 3 and hit tab. Does not like something. It does not like 0.75 times 3. There we go. Wait, that was not smart. This should only be 0.75. Well, here's a good lesson for how you can fix something. So I screwed up and I accidentally made this 2 of the same dimensions. If I wanted my dimension tool to end, what I just did is I hit the escape key on my keyboard. So now my dimension tool turned off. It's not highlighted anymore. To fix it, I'm going to choose this dimension right here. I want it 2.25 wide, but I only want it to be 0.75 tall. So there's my rectangle. Now my rectangle is not lined up on my origin. Is that a problem? It's not. I personally like to model over there. It keeps things constrained nicely. So if you want to connect, you can choose this corner and choose what's called the coincident constraint up here and choose this corner to this corner. If I would have just chosen that corner right from the beginning to start my rectangle from, I wouldn't have had that problem. But here we are. So I'll click the top view. I have my base done, so I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. When I do that, now, like I said, I'm viewing kind of from the bottom of my part, so I'm going to extrude up. And I will extrude up 0.75 and hit OK. So I have the bottom portion. I don't know why my colors are all weird here. There we go. The bottom portion of my centerpiece. So if I go to part 2 again, now I want to make the top cross portion. So I made one extrusion. That was pretty easy. Now how do I add something else to make this a more complex part? Well, just like we do in any other piece in Inventor, we need to add an extrusion. So I've done one extrusion. Now this is a part where I couldn't build the whole thing in one extrusion, so I finished that, and now I'm going to add another extrusion. I can't build the whole thing in one. I'm choosing to do what's called additive modeling. So I built the base, finished the sketch, and I'm going to add more on top. You could start out with more of a solid piece and do subtractive modeling and cut away stuff. To me, the additive in this case makes more sense. So I'm going to start a sketch, and I'm going to add a piece on top of this part. So I'm going to start a sketch, click on the top, and I need to make a rectangle that crosses it on the top here. So I'm going to do rectangle and build a rectangle, and I'll make it the right size to start here. So I'll make it 0.75, hit tab, and I'll make it 0.75 times 3. So there's my rectangle. I know that's the right size, but it's not in the right place. So what I'm going to do is right click and hit OK. Let me just hit escape and make sure everything's off. Something's being weird. Okay, so I've got a rectangle. It's the correct size, but it's not in the correct spot. It can move left to right, it can move up and down. I need to make sure it's centered this way, left to right, and centered up and down off of this rectangle right here. How am I going to do that? Well, right now, it does not recognize that there are edges, so I use a tool that's called Project Geometry. Inventor is weird, and it doesn't notice that there's something here. So I'm going to use Project Geometry, hover over this rectangle, and click once everything's highlighted. Now, it is all yellow. That means it recognizes all of those edges. So I can dimension using this tool. So I'm going to dimension from the left side of my new rectangle to the left side of my old rectangle and make sure I'm centered. You could do math here, but if you think about this, it's 3 pieces wide. So if I want it to be centered, I need to be centered over on the edge of the second piece. So I just need to move over 0.75. And now it's centered right in the middle. Same thing, top to bottom. It's 3 pieces wide, so if I need it to be centered, I just need my 2 middle pieces to be lined up. Well, the middle piece is 0.75 from the end, so 0.75. And I make the top and the left offset, so now I have both the size of my rectangle I need, and I have it in location. Those are the 2 important parts of dimensioning. So I have those 2 created. I hit Finish Sketch. And now I can extrude my next part. So I hit Extrude, and I choose that piece. It remembers I used 0.75 last time. If for some reason it's going down, it's going to want to cut material away, so you need to make sure you are going up. Use your directional arrows. And then you click OK. And if I hold down F4, I can do a free rotate, and you'll see I have my part. You could also click the orbit tool over here. Does the same thing. Rotate around, I've got my part. If you rotate and it gets confusing as to where things are at, you can always click your home button and it'll bring it back into view. Last thing, my puzzle cube part, for some reason it's highlighting. It's actually blue. I don't know why it's highlighting here. There we go. It's a blue part. So I'm going to click back over to part 2. If you want, you could color the individual extrusions. So I could do blue and blue, but if I want to make sure I'm using the right colors, I can just click on the whole part up here. Click my color wheel, make it blue. Voila. There is my second puzzle piece. So I've made 2 parts. You will now continue on making all the rest of your parts, so you should have 3 left to build. And then eventually, we'll work on creating an assembly, and that will be our next video, is assembling all of our parts together to make our solved puzzle cube. We'll look at that next. Thanks for watching.